Hello and welcome to the Encounter Mercy podcast with Vince Dragone and Father Andy Boyd. We have with us today a return guest. You may know him as Monk on the Streets. I'd like to welcome Brother Barnabas back to the show. How's it going, brother?
Hey, good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Doing well.
All right.
Thank you for having me back.
So you're the first student. You're the first student that we've had on the podcast since all of this insanity's gone down. And not only are you a student, but you're in second theology at my alma mater at St. Vincent's, your home, as a Benedictine monk. So tell me, I remember seminary classes, obviously, only almost 2 years now out. What's it like having all of it online?
Yeah, the motivation has plummeted very drastically. So it's still been good, and we're learning and all that stuff, but it's like hard to pay attention when you're just sitting somewhere. Here at the monastery, we don't have a lot of everyone's online, so I just find like a random corner in a hallway or something and try to pay attention to whatever my teacher's talking about, which is all good stuff. But I think the most interesting part of this is like when you're normally in a class and you're listening to the teacher talk, and if he says something funny or that the class thinks is funny, like we all kind of look at each other. But now we can actually send messages to each other. As seminarians, of course, we pay attention, and
you're not using Zoom, are you, or what are you using?
We use something on Schoology.
Oh, okay, good. Because Zoom, one of the features of Zoom is that the professor gets a transcript of all the text messages that go back and forth between the students.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
So they found that out the hard way. Well, the bigger question that I have is, all right, so being a priest, it's very weird because right now I'm celebrating Mass by myself in my chapel in the house here every day. And so I'm celebrating Mass online for whoever might tune into it. But in the monastery, you guys usually gather for Mass together. You still able to get together for Mass, or?
Yes, but we are social distancing, so we are pretty spread out.
Okay.
And yeah, we're doing the best job that we can. We don't do the sign of peace or anything.
Understandable.
We're all like, the normal space that we take up is like doubled.
Wow.
And like our priests, when they can celebrate it, they're like completely circling around the altar because they're trying to stay 6 feet apart from each other. And
oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, it's a strange part on my side, being the celebrant and being alone. I mean, there's times that mom and dad are here with me just because, I mean, they're the only two people that I've come in contact with now. I don't know, even since we came back from Israel, they're the only two that I've really seen. So other than the housekeeper, she keeps coming in, which is I'm happy with. At least the house is staying clean. But
see, nothing's really changed. Nothing's changed for me because I'm still going to work. We're an essential business and still doing all that. Still, I mean, before I was telling friends, before the coronavirus hit, I would come home from work and just sit at home with the family, just like we're doing now. So this really hasn't really affected us too much, aside from every time now that we order groceries, we don't get everything that we want, just because there's a shortage of just about everything out there.
When you guys go out, though, do you have to wear a mask?
Yeah. So I got, that's basically if you have to go into a store or something like that, you got to wear one. At work, we're wearing them now too.
Yeah. There's one.
There you go.
My mother made it.
Oh.
I've actually never put it on before.
Andy, that makes you look really good. You should just leave that on the rest of the show there.
Dude, I made my own homemade mask.
Did you?
Yeah, I wish I had it on me. Because wait, look here, I'll show you. This is the mask that I have. It's very girly looking.
Yeah, right? It is.
It looks like someone took a Vera Bradley bag and just chopped it up and made a mask out of it. So I have that. So I was like, I can't deal with it. So I YouTubed how to make your own Spider-Man mask, and I made a Spider-Man mask, and I of course I made a Monk on the Streets with it.
I saw that. That's awesome. Right.
And then I wore it once to dinner, and now that we go through the line and people have to give us our food, we're not allowed to touch it. And I couldn't see through the mat. Like I can't see through it. So I would just say like, I'll take some of that point. I had no idea what I was getting. I was for the entertainment factor.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Crazy.
I really haven't been on Instagram that much. That's gonna have to get me on to look at that. That's great.
It was good.
So in all of this, like what I was gonna do a horrible job of like leading us into our topic. Like in all of this, what have you guys been doing for leisure? Because I don't know, I have a lot of free time on my hand, a lot of free time. But what with being, you're still able to be in community, Brother Barnabas, whereas I'm staying at home alone. So I'm, even though you're having to stay 6 feet apart, even in community, what's that like for leisure time? And in between you're coming up to the end of your semester. Tomorrow is the last day of classes for you all. So you're going to be having to do all your finals and busy work there to get that all done. What's it like to also have like leisure, looking into the summer and time with that?
Yeah. Well, it's hard here at St. Vincent right now because I'm used to this place this week of the semester just being filled with students and enjoying the beautiful weather before everybody leaves. So campus has been really quiet, but a lot more of the monks have been out and about walking. And I don't know, I feel like it's a pretty monastic thing for guys to go on walks after meals, especially after dinner in the evening. So almost every night after dinner, I've been walking with at least one monk, just getting some exercise and kind of talking and stuff. Actually, yesterday it was starting to rain, and this monkey's been trying to lose weight. So I said, "All right, we'll stay close to the building, and we'll just walk up and down the steps." And if you've been to St. Vincent, there's like 1,000 steps behind us. So he was struggling, but we've been going on walks together, and we still try to have recreation together, but that's been kind of like spread out. So what we've been doing more than we usually do is watching movies. We put them on like a projector and spread out everywhere and like try to sit there and watch movies. So that's like once a week we do that.
What movies have you seen so far?
We watched the Fred Rogers movie because Mr. Rogers and Latrobe, stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
Latrobe.
How was it? Is that a good one?
I wasn't there. I was doing like a campus ministry thing. So
that's more important.
But I really want to see it though, because my this kind of a serious note, my dad's best friend died on the set of that movie. He was a sound guy.
Wow.
And his name was Jimmy Emsweller. He's my dad's best friend growing up. And he like was out on a balcony during a break or something and accidentally fell.
Oh wow.
So at the end of the movie's dedicated to Jimmy Emsweller. So interesting. But yeah, I have to see the whole thing because whenever I went to his funeral, Tom Hanks was at the funeral.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Like I said a few words at the funeral, like a prayer. And afterward I realized Tom Hanks was there. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's cool. For what it is, I guess it's cool.
Right. Well, that's the thing is like people go up to celebrities at events, but at a funeral you're kind of like, all right, well,
can I get your autograph?
Well, there's one Yinzer guy, like I'm standing in line to say my final goodbyes, and some Yinzer guy I hear him, he walks up to Tom Hanks and goes, "Hey Tom, can you say there's a snake in my boot?" And Tom was like, no, I don't think
no, just no.
Oh, that's
so
great.
Yeah, we had that movie. We watched another like movie about a saint. I forget what that was. And then we watched Star Wars.
Of course.
The most recent Star Wars movie. So that was cool that we did that. Because one of our novices, he loves Star Wars and he didn't see the new one yet because he's a novice. So it was a pretty good treat for him.
Nice.
Was my classmate there?
Come on. Of course he was.
I didn't know. I didn't know if he came back.
Father Andy is referring to his classmate, Father Lawrence, who is the biggest Star Wars fan on, like to the point where he could be down the hall having a horrible day, like thinking about, and I can just go, pew, and he will die on command. He'll like pretend like he just got shot by a laser.
Oh yeah. Oh, God bless Father Lawrence.
That's funny. So, Father Andy, what have you been doing?
Yeah, I should be saying, yeah, I'm going out for a WALK. I can't say that word because the animal's sitting right over there. But I would say I do that, but I'm lazy. I'm just fat and lazy. Do you remember when the crazy snowstorm came through Erie and Buffalo, and they interviewed that woman, and she said, "I'm just gonna get myself some donuts and some ice cream and just get all fat and sassy." It's kind of what I feel
That's
like
what
I've
you're.
been doing. I mean,
Is that your inspiration?
not really. I feel like that's what I've become. You know, on a daily basis, the only thing that is routine for me is I have mass at noon every day. Everything else is just kind of, touch and go. Some days, like today, the housekeeper was in today, so I kind of hid out of the way so I wasn't in her way. Um, and But otherwise, I get up every day, say my prayers, have some breakfast, maybe a cup of coffee, watch the news or catch something on TV for a few minutes, go celebrate mass. Today I crashed. I just sat down, and the next thing I knew, it was 4:30, so I started making dinner. What I have been doing, speaking of, I subscribe to oh, geez. HelloFresh, that's it. So my brother does that HelloFresh thing. And then he said, you should do it. So I signed up for it. And what they do is they send you, if you've never done it, it's awesome. As someone who likes to cook, I think it's great because they send you everything you need to make a really good meal. And there's a lot of food in that meal. I can usually get for 2 or 3 meals after that as well. Um, and they send you everything you need, the directions on the
How
recipe.
fresh? How fresh is that?
HelloFresh. How fresh? Really
Yeah.
fresh.
Like, is the chicken still moving around? While they
There's
make
some
that
You
some
gotta
fresh?
cut
feathers on
it.
there
You gotta cut
still.
its head off.
Yeah. There's some feathers on it still, and you have to, every time you touch it, it starts to cluck and peck at you.
Like, I'm thinking HelloFresh is like a farmer shows up with a cow and a shotgun. He's like, or like a rifle.
Here you go,
Whenever you
son.
kill a cow, he's like, here you go, son. It's fresh.
I like that. I like that idea. It's not that fresh, but it's pretty darn near that fresh.
Enough to get you
But
fat and sassy, huh?
yeah, that's right. Enough to get me fat and sassy. So, but I've been, that's my meal for 3 or 4 days a week. It's actually kind of nice because I'm not really going anywhere, and I hate going to the grocery store. And now it's even 10 times worse. But the one positive thing that has come out of this whole situation for me, being someone who's an extreme introvert, is I don't even have to go to the grocery store. I have to make a dinner tomorrow for a few people anyway, and I don't have any food in the house to make a big enough meal for everybody. So I made an order on Giant Eagle's app, and it's going to be here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I don't have to go out to the store. I don't have to walk through the store. I don't have to pick up my items. I don't have to wait in line. I don't have to load it into my car, then unload it. I just have to be here. It's going to show up at my door. I put it away, and I'm just a happy person. Much better.
Fat and sassy.
Fat and sassy and lazy.
Jeez,
You know what? That's my life.
That is extremely lazy.
Maybe you should become a monk. They just
I
get, you know.
I like my independence a little too much.
I don't know if I'd be able to do it. I couldn't. You're saying how you're loving sitting at home doing nothing, man. I can't do it. I'm so glad I'm working. I was laid off for one day whenever the governor shut everything down, and I thought I was going to lose my mind in that one day. But yeah.
Well, yeah. And so, what's it like living with? You have your wife and your 2 kids. What's it like with 2 little kids?
Well, yeah. So before all this happened, she would take the kids to the zoo once a week, sometimes twice a week, to the library once a week, to friend's house. So at first when this all happened, I was just thinking, well, my wife's a stay-at-home mom. Kids are at home all the time, so it's not going to be a big deal. Little did I realize my wife actually does a lot more than I think she does. I think most husbands can attest to that. So they're it's driving them nuts, especially my daughter, because she was in preschool like 2 days a week. And now she can't see her friends, and now she doesn't really understand why. And she keeps saying, well, I can't wait to see my friends next week at school. It's like, no, honey, sorry, it's not going to happen. And then she goes, because of the pandemic. It's like, yep. So I wish I didn't have to teach her that and all that, but it is what it is. but my wife's been busy sewing masks and stuff, as you know. Um, and other than that, just trying to hang in there with some of her hobbies. I saw her reading the Bible a little bit more, so that's a good thing. I think that's coming out of that for her. Um, for me, like I said, nothing's really changed. I have had more time on weekends to do things like brew beer. I'm trying to increase my brewing. It's been a while. I kind of took a break over the winter just because I hate brewing in my garage and it's really cold. Hopefully, going to move that to the basement here soon. I've picked up my guitar a lot more. Picked up the banjo for the first time in 6 months. So just finding time to do little
That's
things
not a
around.
banjo, is it?
No, this is a guitar. I said
Okay.
playing the
All right.
guitar.
Sorry.
He said guitar
I got
first.
distracted. I was looking up my notes that I had because I did want to, I do want to try to make this more than just the pandemic episode, but
Oh, sure, yeah. But I mean, for me, I enjoy that. It's better than going out and spending a bunch of money on whatever other activity. We're saving a lot of money, which is kind of nice. Um, so I like it, and it's coming up here. We're recording this episode ahead of time, but this weekend, turkey season starts. So I'll be in the woods for my other job doing that, which is always fun. Um, I don't get paid a whole lot of money for being a game warden part time, but I do it just because I love it. So
they are allowing for hunting right now.
yeah, what do you think? Everyone's going to gather within 6 feet of each other to hunt turkey?
Remember, our government does some crazy things.
No, we Pennsylvania Game Commission is an independent agency, so they're able to do things like that. So that'll be nice. I really look forward to being out in the woods a little bit more here next couple of weeks.
So with all this time that we have on our hands, the fact that I'm being lazy, the two of you are actually living a life and doing things, I don't have classes to study for. I don't have a job that really I need to go to work and do work for. My work is kind of on standstill at the moment because I don't have anything or anyone to meet with. So with this, what do you think? Is it when it comes to leisure, people have a lot of leisure time on their hand, a lot of free time on their hands. Is that can be what do you think? Can that be uh, can be both bad and good?
Well, sure.
Right?
I mean, if you look at, recently I've been seeing a lot of articles saying that pornography is on the rise because of this.
Yeah.
They were looking at Italy, and within the first week or two of lockdown over there, porn searches went up like 300%. And they're starting to see the same things here just because, I guess people are bored at home with nothing to do. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of people end up going. But on the other hand, there is time to kind of slow down from some of the busy lives that we have. And this is a good mental break for some people. And they're able to do things that they enjoy doing. They're able to discover that, that job that I got laid off from, I hated that job and I can't wait to find something that I enjoy doing once this is all over. So, there's two sides of the coin, I think, on this one.
Yeah. 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 So because it's difficult because there's some people even say that people who are workaholics, you got to work through everything. They work through their Sundays, they work through their child's different things at school, or the concert, or birthdays, or things like that. So people are always working, constantly working. But it's important that we take time not just for rest, but for leisure, for things that we enjoy, right? So maybe, okay, so a little secret on mine is that I still play video games because, well, especially right now, what else is there to do other than, I'm reading a few books that I've put off for so long, but still playing video games, and that's leisure time. But the question is, what am I wasting my time on? Am I wasting my time on something? And is it even a waste, really? Because that's another thought to have is by spending time where I am playing video games, is that really wasting time? Well, it can be, but the other thing
Well,
is yeah,
maybe
yeah,
a question I'd have for the Andy is, what is leisure?
yeah.
To actually define it. what's if somebody said, well, what's the difference between leisure and just like wasting time doing whatever, you know?
Very good point.
So what do you think it is, Brother Barnabas? How would you
I
describe it?
mean, I think some of the things that are seemingly the simplest are often some of the most difficult things to explain. So I like to talk around them or just like describe what like
You're a
examples
good
of what they are.
philosopher.
Right? I have one of those degrees, yeah. So, but I'd say like leisure is something that leaves you with a feeling of satisfaction after some like enjoyable period of rest or doing something that you'd like to do. And I say satisfied different than like just simply being full, right? So it's kind of like if you eat, crappy food, you're not hungry anymore after you're eating it because you like eaten enough, but you're kind of full. After you eat McDonald's, you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm wrecked for the day. But if you have a good meal, some chicken and broccoli or whatever, and made from that fresh and ready, whatever you're doing, you feel full, but you also feel satisfied, like feel good, and it inspires me to carry on and to go do something else with my life rather than just like, oh gosh. It's kind of like I wonder how much like Netflix or Hulu people are watching now. Like I love watching a good movie. I love watching a good TV show or whatever. But like right before I went to the monastery, I pretty much I worked at a golf course for like 12 hours a day, would come home, eat a Little Caesars pizza, and just watch The Office. And, that little like spinny thing would just go around after an episode, be like, do you want to watch another? Okay. And then it's just going. And I think that's a big question to ask is like, am I doing something of leisure? How does it leave me feel afterward?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just listening to an episode of the Word on Fire show with Bishop Barron, and someone called in and pretty much asked him to be able to describe how, because Bishop Barron always talks about you can find truth in beauty, and that's how he leads people to the church, is through using not only his intellectual philosophy, but also beauty and art and music. And on a really high level, how he described it was, when you listen to Mozart, or you walk into one of these old cathedrals, you can't help but for it to just kind of overcome you and fill you with something that makes you want to do something with it. And that's where the truth is. And compared to something that is just something that you like, and it might be pretty or whatever, but it doesn't capture you and instill something in you that makes you want to do something with it. I don't know if that makes any sense. I tried to describe it, but Bishop Barron does a much better job.
Yeah, both of those together makes a lot of sense. Because you can think about, I remember in seminary, in college seminary, the rector of the seminary always gave a conference right before we would go home for summer. And he would say, do you really feel that great after sitting and watching an entire day's worth of, and his show that he always used was uh, Law and Order, because he loved to watch Law and Order. He said, do you always feel good after sitting there and watching a whole day's worth of Law and Order in the summer? No, you'd rather be outside enjoying the weather if it's not raining, or, you feel different after you were to spend an entire day reading a good book. Your mind you're intellectually invigorated. But you're right, just clicking next or just allowing Netflix to keep going forward, guilty here too, you just get that feeling of depleted. You don't feel like you're actually being able to fulfill anything or get any fulfillment or satisfaction.
Sure. And before you know it, it's 10 o'clock at night and it's time for bed. And it's like, where did my whole day go? And
or 2 a.m.
Right. Or yeah, in your case, I cannot stay up that late, but I can, you kind of look at it as, I think people feel the same way spiritually as well. You might get either stuck in a rut or, you just kind of go through the motions. And I think we've had an episode on going through the motions before, but instead of, really being involved in it and getting something out of it, we just kind of, I'm just going to go to church because that's what I do and that's what I've always done, compared to I'm going to go to church because I want to receive the Eucharist. And the conversation we were just having that kind of just made me think of that is, how can we take this and bring it back to our faith? And I think we can waste our time trying to find different things that fulfill us, or we can kind of go down the path that we know is going to fulfill us through a prayerful life.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm a very practical minded guy here, So certain things that I think I would suggest are good leisure things, kind of like layers of this, right? So like a top layer of good leisure would be like, man, I just recently started getting back into a routine of working out, and wow, I'm like, I forgot, like there's a part of me that exists that kind of comes back to life whenever I'm like regularly working out.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard still, I'm not just like sitting there. Like we have some monks that sit on the uh, like exercise bike, and you look like they're just watching TV. Like, bro, you could just be sitting up the stairs. Why you're not like moving this, but like moving our bodies, and like it feels good, actually getting the chemicals in your brain flowing. So that's
sure.
like tier A, really good. I think another one, like you guys were saying before, like reading books. Like I during this Corona thing have been reading The Lord of the Rings instead of doing my homework, and like, man, I love the movies, but reading the book is just, no one can argue that watching the movies are awesome, but you can't say that, oh yeah, it's like better to watch the movies than read the books. It's just so much better to read a book, I think, as much as I love movies.
Agreed.
And then I don't know, this is a little bit flexible, but I'd include just like in like the art of conversation as well, into just like doing something with people, and with that then can come like the second tier of things, so like I'm not a big fan of video games because I think most people can't use them without, like, I'm talking to college students that are up till 4 a.m. every night playing video games. I'm like, dude, these things are addicting.
Yeah, they
But
are.
a lot of
They
times
can be.
guys are like, they're talking to other people that they play online or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Which could be used for the negative, but I think in some weird ways, like I talked to one guy, he played video games, and he like invited another guy into his small group while they were online playing video games. So there's like a communal aspect of leisure to something like that. And another example that could be like, I like to smoke cigars, like a good pipe. And that's another thing, like kind of like video games, it has to be done in like a good moderation to make it leisureful. Because if you're just doing that like every day, yeah, that's going to be not good.
Mm-hmm.
Tier two thing for me for leisure. So like things that they're leisure if you use them well. Otherwise, they just become kind of like not healthy.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what I was trying to hit at home with is like, okay, the fact that I play video games, but it's not like I'm sitting here playing them all day every day. That's the key. Is I was trying to I'm very bad at like working around things. I should really just stab at it more often. Anyway, yeah, because like I have some friends that live in Europe that I play video games with, and so we chat using this Discord app as well. Which, by the way, if anybody's listening, we do have a Discord server set up, but it doesn't work for anybody else. But anyway, um, I have the ability to chat with people from other countries, other parts of the world, and that it's cool. But there's something different, even on top of that, and it's not like um, as we said, you shouldn't be spending every hour of the day on Netflix, but same with video games. You shouldn't be spending every hour of the day playing video games. It's about having that balance.
Hmm. Well, Vince, let me ask you, what as a father and a husband, what do you do with your family to try to have intentional leisure even before this whole deal? Like I remember growing up, like my dad would just take us on a Sunday drive. Do people still do Sunday drives? Like I feel like people now have to go places all the time rather than just.
Well, now gas prices are a lot cheaper, so I guess a Sunday drive would be with in question here. But typically, what we do is, especially when it's nice outside, we have a trampoline in the backyard, and we have a little swing set in the backyard. So we try to spend a lot of time outside. Just the kids love it. They can run around, they can jump, they can swing, anything that they want. Normally we try to get to playgrounds and such. In the summertime, we do a lot of picnics. We have a nice park not far from here that overlooks the lake. And so we'll just take out, we'll cook food and then we'll pack it away and then, take it and, pitch a blanket and have lunch just as a family. We try to do things together. It may be just something simple as having a meal, like I said, a picnic, or we have Presque Isle here, which is really nice. My daughter's learning how to ride a bike this year with training wheels, so we'll be able to do a lot more this summer, and I look forward to that. In the house, a lot of times we'll just be in the same room, together, whether we're doing the same thing or not. At least we're there, and we don't just, I don't just give my daughter an iPad and say, here, go in the corner and watch for hours on end and leave me alone. We try to do things together, and we try to play with the kids and stuff too. So my daughter likes to watch me play the guitar, and she has a little tiny plastic guitar that she's sits beside me and tries to play as well. So eventually I'll start teaching her how to play. I think she's a little too young now, but maybe next year we can upgrade her guitar and just start to teach her some of the basics. But that's the kind of stuff that I like to do with the kids.
Yeah. I think in this conversation right now, I'm thinking about a friend of mine who he told me that like he grew up basically just watching TV. That's all he did, right? And he said he realized that was a kind of a problem when he went to apply for college, and in the college application it said like, what are your interests and hobbies? And he's like, dude, to watch TV for like middle school or high. Like he had no skills, no hobbies, no interests other than watching TV. And I'm like, man, maybe leisure is something where there's some type of like you get a skill or a talent or something at it, like being able to play the guitar, being able to like, I don't know, make a fire, being able to be coordinated enough to jump on a trampoline. Like something, even like we were talking before this about cooking, Father Andy, or we were talking during about cooking. Like that's can be leisure for some people, like baking or cooking, which is something that like when you do it, other people also reap the benefits of it in addition to just you.
Yeah. I think one of my absolute favorite things that I don't get to do as much now, and I haven't really in the last year just because of life and everything that's going on in the world in general. Um, you know, I think what I enjoy a lot is being able to host people and be able to have just dinner parties, I guess you could say, because it's just to be able to have a nice meal, cook a nice meal, to sit with a nice group of people, to have a nice conversation with a good bottle of wine or scotch or whatever you're going to drink with it, and just have an opportunity to be with people. And as we know, it's difficult right now. We can't really gather, people can't travel as much, and I really pray that this ends soon. But
Well, man,
yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think this is like, I wonder how many families have actually begun sitting down together again at the dinner table because of this. Because I grew up at a house where we all sat down for, when dad came home, we'd sit there and wait and he'd come down. But doing college ministry, I realized how many people don't sit down to dinner together anymore.
No.
And you're talking about hosting and having dinners, like meals, I think are a huge part of family leisure or like inviting other people to. That's a huge thing. And it breaks my heart here in St. Vincent when I see students eating by themselves. And certain students, you figure out over time, like they never eat with anybody,
Yeah.
We've always
meals
tried to
should
do
be
that
with
here.
other people.
Yeah. My family, they wait till I get home. Then we sit down and we all eat together, and no one gets up until we're all done. And then we can go off and do our thing, whatever it is. But Father Andy, I agree with you, man. I can't wait to be able to have people over again. That's kind of, the last big thing we did was Halloween.
Wow, yeah.
What was that? That costume, it wasn't a costume party. It was one of those.
You didn't Cassandra have us do a murder mystery?
It was a murder mystery party. That's what it was. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we just haven't had the time, even before this whole coronavirus thing. And just, I feel like we were the ones getting sucked into that. There's no time for anything because we're always busy. We need to slow down, be able to have fun with friends. I want to have people over to do bonfires this summer.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that from a lot of people. Have those opportunities to gather together after this. I was talking to another priest friend that is a nearby pastor, and he wants to have a huge gathering of all of his parishioners and just have a huge cookout in the parking lot of the church, just because we can once this is all over.
Yeah, I look forward to doing another whiskey tasting. Every once in a while I'd have friends who I knew enjoy whiskey. Everyone brings a bottle or two, and then we kind of do like a bracket basically, and at the end see who's favorite. Who we just blind tasting and stuff like that. So I look forward to that. It's been a while, and it makes you. This whole thing kind of makes you, I guess, really try to you cherish the things that you really enjoy, and
Makes
it's
you
not
long for it again.
it's not just
Yeah.
it's the community aspect, I think, because the things I look forward to the most are community based. I want to go to church and I want to have a full church with everybody in it. I want to be able to see my friends and do all the things that we kind of took for granted before this all happened.
Well, check it out. I think bringing this full circle to what we were talking about with the difference for being full versus satisfied is I think this whole time, uh, like you guys are talking about, has left us with kind of a lack that has made us aware of like a longing or desire for things that we've just taken for granted. And I've always loved something that St. Augustine says about desire. He says, comparing it to St. Paul's or his comments, St. Augustine's commentary on St. Paul's line that prayer should be unceasing. St. Augustine, very practical. He's like, what does that mean? Like even the most holy, prayerful person needs to go to the bathroom or fall asleep or whatever. And he said, if you want your prayer to be unceasing, lift up your desire to God, because that's the only thing that each human being has that never stops. Other than breathing, we all constantly 24/7, even in our dreams, have desires. And the deepest ones, of course, the most important, but that even now we can turn this into an opportunity for that to be our prayers. Man, I really we desire unity and community and fun stuff with people that we normally did.
Yeah. 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 It's so true. And thinking back to the whole family aspect of it, and it's so true because we've heard for years, and one of the things that we talk about in seminary is the fact that families just don't spend time as families. And how do we educate people in the faith? It's not through traditional education of just go to school and learn your catechism and then come home and you're set and you're Catholic. No, no, it has to be whole family faith formation. And so one of the things that someone, I don't remember where it was, I saw it online somewhere, um, but it was a post. Someone was being very, fictitious with it, but um, this person, probably our age, we're all about the same age. So our age in 15, 20 years from now has a kid that's 20 years old, maybe. Because, well, how old's your oldest, Vince?
She'll be 4 this summer.
4.
Yeah.
So 24, in 20 years from now, she'll be 24. Um, Looking back on this and saying, "Mom, Dad, tell me about the coronavirus." And they said, "Well, don't you remember you were 4 years old?" Or even maybe the person was 8 in this story. Don't you remember you were 8 years old?" And they said, "Well, no, tell me about it." And the parents said, "Well, it was horrible. Everybody had to stay at home. Everything was shut down. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing that we could do. Everybody was afraid." And then the parent said, "Well, what do you remember about it?" And they said, "Well, I remember just kind of like what you said, brother, is we were all at home together and we had meals together and we got to spend time together and we were able to be a family together and have an opportunity to be with each other." It's all about the perspective that we should have right now during this whole situation, because my perspective is it is great for my introvertedness, but then the other perspective is that it is drawing us together in a different way. I was talking with someone online yesterday, and she was saying about how I'm not sure if God's really working in this. I said, "Oh, absolutely, He's working in this. He's calling us all together. He's forcing us to do things in a new way. Your entire work, brother, as a campus minister, is completely different than even, I don't know, 3 months ago when we left to go to the Holy Land."
Yeah, I mean, I'm even thinking my family. I was sitting in prayer one night thinking, like, man, what can we do? What can I do? And I thought, well, I need to reach out to my family. My mom is one of 10, and I have big family, aunts and uncles and cousins. Well, I reached out to see if we could have a family Jeopardy night. So, because I had done one in campus ministry, we had a Jeopardy game based off St. Vincent questions, and it worked really well. So I thought, oh, I'll just apply this to my family. Well, we had about 35, 30, something like that, of my aunts and uncles and cousins logged on. But I forgot that like half of them, which my aunts and uncles are like above 55, they're like 60 years old. They're like sitting there looking like, okay, what do I do? So we spent about half the time just trying to learn the technology and then the other time playing. So even though it was kind of messy, I thought to myself, never in a million years would I've ever reached out to all my aunts and uncles and cousins to be like, hey, can we get on the internet and play a game together? I would have been like, oh, they'll probably think I'm like a nerd or something like that.
Yeah.
But because of this situation, they're like, oh yeah, no doubt, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of, I guess, dinners with my family in Pittsburgh, like aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, just like we're doing right here. And when it was before, it was like once every 3-4 months I'd go down to Pittsburgh and see them. Now it's much more often. It's not in person, but at least you get to see somebody and you can talk to somebody, and it is nice.
Which maybe in this whole conversation of leisure, maybe the difference for leisure versus just doing whatever is that leisure is intentional, so that if you're gonna like, if I'm gonna go fishing, I'm gonna make time and go do it, rather than just like, that's all, like I'm just never with my family because I'm always just fishing. Or if I'm gonna go drink a beer, like, man, I'm gonna go enjoy this and like whatever, rather than like, yeah, I'm just drinking beer
just
all
gonna
day,
pound these.
the video.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
So that it's like fun things that are good for you, or at least neutral, but you're doing it with some intention rather than just like escape or grasping or whatever.
Yeah, if you have to do something to escape, there's probably something else going on there. But yeah, to do something, if it's an intentional act that is genuinely good, that brings about maybe something that's contemplative, or you learn something from it, or it's just a part of you, that sounds like leisure to me.
Kind of rounding this all out with the whole faith aspect of it is a great line from scripture, of course, in St. Paul in 1 Corinthians 10. He says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all of it for the glory of God. I think that's the key, because when it comes to the things that are immoral, you can't do that for the glory of God.
No.
When it comes to other aspects, you can do things, you can have fun and still let it be for the glory.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that John Paul II would go skiing every year after Christmas, or the fact that, Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati has one of his like icons is him standing on a mountain with a pipe in his mouth.
Yeah.
Or that he would play his friends in pool, and if he won, they'd have to go to adoration with it. Like, it's good to do fun things, Christians, and to use that as a witness.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And so we're gonna go have some more leisure time, I think.
I think so. I think it's this was a good episode. Something, it was it was relaxing. It doesn't fit the normal style of our episode, which I think was a good break from what we normally do. So
and to break the fourth wall, there was no preparation at all for this.
None. Yeah, I have no notes.
This is great.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Brother Barnabas, for joining us again. And
thank you guys.
I want to direct everybody who is listening, who is not already subscribed to Monk on the Streets, to go to Instagram and look up Monk on the Streets and follow Brother Barnabas. He has some really good content, very relatable content, very funny content, and I think you'll enjoy it.
What was the really, really dumb joke that you said on our trip to the Holy Land that I ruined?
I said, how does Moses make his coffee?
And all you hear from the back of the bus is me saying, he brews it.
I was like, bro, you ruined the joke.
I'm bad at jokes.
You didn't know I was making an episode, but
no idea. No idea.
But But then people started sending me other like Bible jokes. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, you could do a whole week of just Monk on the Streets of just terrible, lame Bible jokes.
Oh my God.
Dad jokes.
Yeah, like dad jokes. Monk jokes.
You're right. If anybody has any suggestions, please send them to Monk on the Streets. I'm Monk around the streets, and I will say your dad jokes on the Instagram thing.
Yes. All right,
Awesome.
all right, everybody. Make sure that you go to our website, www.encountermercy.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Father Andy is doing the live stream masses every day at noon that you can find on our YouTube and our Facebook pages. He's been getting fantastic turnout on those. It just continues to grow, which is fantastic. And I just used the word fantastic twice in a row in one sentence.
Fantastic.
It was just fantastic.
I think it's fantastic, right, Barnabas? It's fantastic.
It's pretty fantastic.
All right.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Okay, quit being sassy. So
Fat and sassy.
And make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. That way, if you're just finding this, you're just stumbling across it, and for whatever reason you want more, they'll automatically come to you. So, with that being said, we're gonna close it off here. So, thank you everybody for listening, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.